Hello, you're very welcome along to the Matchbook US Open Special. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by Jack Kelliher and Will Turl. We've got plenty to discuss, guys, in terms of the US Open. So much going on. And before I get your thoughts, firstly on the golf course, and then the guys are going to pick a golfer from the top of the market, middle of the market, and maybe back to lay or big price ones. Let's tell you a little bit about our ongoing golf offer here. This is available on the US Open, but also for every PGA Tour event before the end of the season. It's basically get your money back as a free bet if your golfer has the outright lead. That's basically the lead on their own at the end of any round, but fails to win. And this is a back bet up to £100. You'll get your money back as a free bet. So, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We were very close to paying out on Scottie Scheffler there last week. Had a bit of a wobble, I'd say Saturday and Sunday, but manages to survive. He, of course, was the outright lead at round 2. Round 3, had Morikawa got win, and you backed Scottie Scheffler, £100 on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. You would have at least got your money back as a free bet up to that £100. So do check that offer out every week. It is an ongoing offer for existing customers on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. All you have to do is opt in, and once you opt in once, you're opted in throughout the season. So yeah, just like and subscribe. We have a lot of content coming in terms of Euros, English Greyhound Derby this week as well, and plus Royal Ascot next week. It's quite a busy period of sporting action. But Jack, for you, it's all about the US Open and the Pinehurst Golf Course.
Certainly is an event that I'm seriously looking forward to. In fact, probably more excited for this event than any other major so far this year. It's going to be an incredible test. I think it'll make for some great viewing. I think that we've had some tracks recently which have sort of provided the same style of play for each and every golfer. And this week, we're going to see a lot of variation in terms of players' shots and how they approach this incredible track. So really looking forward to it. And hopefully we can find the winner.
Yeah, and with that winner, Will, it could be a number of golfers. One of them, Rory McIlroy. You've mentioned that he is a golfer that doesn't quite get as much headlines as he used to. It was this time last year I actually predicted he'd win the US Open, and he very nearly did finish in second. But it was that Masters and me deciding not to back him, which is why I've completely given up on Rory McIlroy. And now I've decided to myself I'm happy to wait for that 5th major as opposed to being there and backing him when he does do it.
Yeah, I think...
yeah,
I'll charge this to Rory fanboy Will here, Jack.
I think it's the first tournament in quite a while where I literally haven't heard his name mentioned once, which is part of the reason I wanted to pass it to you, because I know you can get dragged into a Rory McIlroy case pretty easily. It could work in his favour, right? No one talks about him. We say this before, but no one talks about you. You can go under the radar. You know, if he had a good first round and he's in the mix, then we might see that finally that 10-year hiatus finished.
Yeah, well, just for a bit of breaking news as we're recording, we've got Xander, Scottie, and Rory out on Thursday afternoon as a group. I don't know if personally that suits Rory at all. Jack, a little bit on the golf course itself, and just for listeners who might not remember Pinehurst, the last US Open was a good few years ago now. Just give people a little bit of background of what to expect golf-wise, and maybe how we could sort of bring that into a betting sense as well.
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, it's going to play firm and fast this week. So it's a classical layout course, circa 7,500 yards in terms of length, which is pretty short by today's standards, especially given that the course will play fast and firm this week. I think what we'll see differently as viewers tuning in will be that we've got different sort of grains of grass around the fairway. So we've got a first cut this week, and then very much like Augusta, we're into pine grass and wiregrass, various different grains there that will have a huge impact on how this tournament plays out. I think we're going to have differences with a ball being maybe a foot apart and someone getting a birdie and getting a 6 on holes. That something that we haven't seen at the PGA Championship and at the Masters recently. So there'll be a bit of luck involved this week for the player that goes on to lift the trophy. But the course itself, it's going to be an absolute brilliant one to watch, because like we've touched on, variation around the greens. It's going to require shot shaping both ways, lots of dog legs. We've got the upturned greens that Donald Ross is famous for in designing, which effectively means that a lot of the balls will be repelled away from the pin. Certainly on Saturday and Sunday, they'll be placed in positions which will put an emphasis on short game. And I think that overall, we're going to see the player that wins have to use every club in their bag and show us a lot of variety, which is something I'm super excited for.
Yeah, and even Memorial, different tests I know, but it was a hard test, and it was back to what I think we want from the PGA Tour, at least in our majors and our big tournaments. I understand the need for Birdie Fest. They're entertaining for the bandwagon fans, but I do think US Open should always be played like this. Let's hope for over par scoring as much as possible. But let's look at the market. I'll get producer Ryan to put up what we currently have on the Matchbook betting exchange. Betting wise, you can currently get up to 18 grand if you want it in euro, 4.5 on the Matchbook betting exchange. Rory McIlroy is 14.0, slightly bigger price than Xander, who's 13.0. A little bit of money for Xander over the last couple of days. Colin Morikawa, 19.5. Victor Hovland, who was tipped up in the USPGA around 50 or 60 by Jack Kelliher, now 23.0 shot for a major against the same field, effectively. Bryson, 26.0. Ludwig has been one of the stories of the season, 28.0. And Brooks is a big price at 30.0. John Ram, with his injury concerns, 38.0 currently, and bigger prices the rest. Jack, I do want to start with Scottie Scheffler's price of 4.5. What is your fair price on him? I know you've been backing him anti-post, but for viewers who haven't got any stake in him at the moment at 4.5, and they do want to play the top of the market, would you recommend a bet or not at that price at the moment?
Yeah, I think I'm reluctant to say it, but I think I would. I'm scared to say that I'd back a player at that price, but the reality is that I think he's value even at that. So I think anywhere down to 3-1. I actually expected him to go off a little shorter, as you know, in the group chat. I texted the other day thinking it'd be probably 11-4 shots. So yeah, I've obviously played my cards on him earlier on in the year. It's a course that I think that lined up well for him. But yeah, I think his price is fair. And if you want to have one punt, don't hesitate, guys.
Okay, I like that for the listener looking for perhaps backing a winner, or just wants someone who is guaranteed as much as you can in golf betting to be in contention on the weekend. Will, take us through your thoughts about, I presume you're eventually leaving Scottie alone that price, and who have you landed on the top of the market?
Yeah, I think the comment that Jack made there around being 1 foot apart on the fairway versus the rough and potentially a 3-shot swing, I think that's kind of where I've led to drifting away from Scottie. I think this course is going to offer up a bit of variance in the betting. Obviously, Scottie unbelievably straight off the tee, long off the tee, solid with his irons. I just think that something random is going to happen on the edges of the fairways or around the greens that could cost you 2 shots, and that just throws up, a bit of variation in the betting. So I think, on a track that's more predictable with his current form, I think he's an auto bet. I just think that very small doubt around the luck element, I think, has warned me away from him. So yeah, I was looking at the front of the market. Wasn't particularly interested in the other two. So if I was to pump for one, it would have been him reluctantly. I've gone down a few steps, and it's to the name that you called out earlier, which is Brooks Koepka. I think this was Jack's headline selection at the PGA tournament, which quite rarely he had a bit of a poor tournament. Or was it the Masters, Jack? Which one was it?
Masters, yeah.
Masters, yeah. Wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, he's not fired quite as strongly over the first 2 majors this year that we've seen the last couple of years. But he's one of the few players of the kind of elite contenders that we're expecting to bet on who was here 10 years ago. You look at the Colin Morikawas, the Schefflers, they haven't got any experience at this course. He's had 1 round, that's it. He finished in the top 5. He's coming off form that feels like it's being a little bit undervalued. So obviously the Live Golf Tour gets a little bit sniped at from the PGA players and from maybe those tipping golfers. But, the performances in some of the majors have been pretty strong, particularly him and Bryson DeChambeau. And his Live form, the last 3 events, he's finished in the top 10. And that involves a win around just under a month ago in Live Singapore, which was actually his 4th Live title, which, again, it depends how much credence you give to these victories in comparison to PGA. But the number 4 is pretty strong when you think he's only been there, 18 months. And when you look at John Rahm, for instance, who's, I think he's won once and certainly hasn't contended very often. That's a pretty strong strike rate for, like I said, about 18 months of data. His case is really around his driving. So he's driving really well at the moment. And I think this course, like I said, as soon as you step off that fairway, you bring double bogey off the bat. for a very slightly erroneous drive. So he's driving it long, he's driving it straight. His iron play is pretty solid, but it's more to do with, you know, if you vision the type of player that's going to perform well on this, I think it's a plodder, it's a grinder. And when you think of who the best grinders in the game of golf that you would fancy to be sticking it around in the +1s, +2s, Brooks Koepka's probably the first name that comes to mind. You know, he can battle his way around the course, and he's not going to give up the fight. And I think a US Open is just perfectly suited to Brooks, his skill set, and then also his sort of mentality.
Yeah, it's hard to argue if he is anywhere near his peak form. That 30.0 is quite a big price, I have to say. Jack, apart from our listeners who tuned out as soon as you mentioned, if you want one bet this week and you want a winner, Scottie Scheffler, if they've hung on in for a bit of value, who at the top of the market are you willing to back at the current prices?
Top of the market for me, he's got the monkey off his back last time out, Xander Schauffele. I think I take actually a bit of confidence. So I have played Xander myself in addition to Scottie. That's two at the top of the market. Took a bit of confidence yesterday from a significant exchange move on the Matchbook exchange from about 18.5, 19 into second favourite, exactly where he should be. He is the second favourite for this tournament. His US Open record is just impeccable. I think it reads 5th, 6th, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 14th, 10th. I don't think I've just read that, so it does. So 7 events in the top 14, 6 of those top 10s. He's got 4 top 10s in his last 9 majors, and all of those majors were top 20s. So when Will just touched upon people sort of hanging at the top of leaderboards being proven to be able to perform in a grind, he is definitely ticking the boxes there. Also got form for stringing back-to-back results together. 2018, he won the WGC and then the Centenary. I appreciate there was a few months in between that. And then in 2022, he won the Travelers and the Genesis Open, I think it's Scottish Open, in back-to-back weeks. So he's got that form. I saw enough last week in his game to see that he will be there and thereabouts. Last week, he will have not been fully tuned up. He will get in his game back to where he wants, getting back on the course, getting into his rhythm again. And statistically, just to sort of top it off, first in bogey avoidance on fast, firm tracks over the past 50 rounds on tour, second in tee to green performance, third in green in regulations gained, fourth in par 4 scoring. 3-time winner on the surface, on the grain of grass that we're facing this week, and he's a Donald Ross expert. If I'm taking one at the top, he is my man.
Okay, Xander Schauffele 13.0 for Jack. Will is going for Brooks at 30.0, and I will be having very little bets outside of Scottie Scheffler at 4.5 currently. So that is the one I like there. Had a good ever since the Masters. I haven't deserted that Scottie yet. I'm not going to start doing it now, and I do feel we may look back come the Open at that price of 4.5, and he's going off a lot shorter for an Open. That probably doesn't suit his game as well as this course. Who knows? That's sort of the angle there. Minus 1.33 strokes gains, putting in round 4 at the Memorial, and still got the job done. Remarkable stuff. Let's go to the middle of the market here. And these are good prices, particularly to be playing on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. If you're backing a golfer around 50.0, you can lay off some of your stake. There's lots of ways you can go about it. Jack, throw straight back to you. Who do you like in that 50.0 range?
Yeah, definitely. I think also you got the top 20 market and top 10 markets to consider for these types of players that we're going to go into mention now. So the player for me is Tommy Fleetwood, 50-1 on the Matchbook Exchange as we speak. He will be my selection in that mid-market range. He's got 3 top 5 finishes at the US Open. His best major performances have come here. I think a 2nd, a 4th, and a 5th last year. Coming into this event, you need to show signs that your game's in good order, your all-round game's in good order. He finished his best ever finish at the Masters, which is something he's never performed well there in the past previously. So he's got that in the bag, proven major performance earlier on in the year. Top 20 last week, but it's his all-round game that gets me excited really about him. One of the straightest and longest drivers on the PGA Tour. That's what he's renowned for. He's an elite level ball striker from distance. And we have, making some assumptions here, but the track is going to play fast and firm. If we listen to the interviews yesterday, they're already talking about the greens being bordering on diabolical in terms of the speed already. So defense is going to be super important. He is second in strokes gained around the green, second in bogey avoidance, second in scrambling, and 8th in sand saves over the last 24 rounds on tough scoring tracks. So this is tracks that are playing to sort of 5 under par or better in the winning score. He's got the temperament. One of the criticisms that people will nail at Tommy is he doesn't get in contention enough early. But I think that this is the test for him, where he can make his way up that leaderboard as long as he doesn't put himself out of it day one. First-time winner 2 years ago in Fitzpatrick. First-time winner Clark last year. First-time winner potentially 2024 on the PGA Tour and in a major championship for Tommy Fleetwood.
You could feel the passion coming through, Jack. You got more and more into that case as it went on. Will, I don't know if you can do the same.
Tommy's the English version of Rory for me, as in he's the one that I'd happily lose money on winning, but I don't back him because I feel like I'd curse him. Yeah, he's my favourite as a bloke, as a golfer.
I'm Shane Larry's mine. I was at Port Rush, and I think I had every other golfer back bar Shane, but by the end of it, we were just cheering him on. It was absolutely amazing stuff. Will, this golfer is getting, again, initially when I heard the name, we talked about it briefly, wasn't for me, but it's hard to argue that it's a big price, 75.0 on this guy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sticking with my my grinders, my plodders, you know, the people with the really strong mentality, and that's Max Homa at 75.0 on the exchange at the moment. He's a golfer that I've won on in the past and kind of is in my sort of collection of favourites. And whenever he hits a price similar to my Morikawa shout at the PGA event, he's one of those that once he hits over 50 or around the mark, he's an autoplay. I think it's obviously a little bit more difficult around the majors because he carried that monkey on his back for a while, even more so than Xander, in that Max wasn't just not winning, he was vastly underperforming and not challenging at the top end. So he's got rid of that now with, like you said, challenging once last year, and then the Masters was putting in a great performance, could easily have won that tournament. And I think he's finally understood what it takes to win a major. I think it was always surprising because the courses that he's performed well at and the courses he's won at have all been really difficult tracks, which is why it's never really made sense that he wasn't contending in the majors. So I think that's something that's massively going to benefit him. He is one that he likes winning on the you know, few under pars, score lines. He doesn't like winning at 25 under. If there's a 25 under course, you're probably not going to see Max Homa winning it. He's won at Riviera, Quail Hollow, really difficult courses. And I think in terms of which major is going to suit his skill set the most, I've kind of always thought it's the US Open, in terms of he can grind his way around, firm and fast. He's really strong with that. He's pretty straight off the tee. So hopefully he'll miss the rough and whatever it is on the side of the fairways. And around the green, he's actually pretty creative. His stats are quite strong for around the green. And on top of that, and this is the big one really, it's the putting at 6 to 10 feet range that I think is going to be really important this week, because as we've sort of given the background to the course, there's going to be a lot of creativity around the greens, a lot of runoffs. You're going to be getting up and down a lot. And typically that means leaving yourself the old knee-knocking putts from 6 to 10 feet. And I think Jack called before his man to hold a putt from 6 feet was Cam Smith, I think he said. I think after him, I'd probably have Max Homa as number 2 in terms of putting my life on the line for who I'd fancy to hold that putt. He's got the mentality, and I think there's going to be a lot of that 6 to 10 foot par putt range where I think you can just see the Max Homa putt, and he's almost caught the ball up at the hole, picking it out onto the next one, grind out another par. So yeah, I just think 75.0, like you would have seen from my selections, given the high variance I see with this course, I think going slightly higher on the market is going to be some value, and you'll certainly see that with my next one. But 75.0 about a golfer like Max Homa, I think is a great bet.
Well, that leads us on nicely to our next one. So the middle of the market picks, Will's going for Max Homa, 75.0, 50.0 Tommy Fleetwood. For Jack, Will, straight back to you. And I mean, this is a former US Open champion. He didn't complete the Grand Slam last month, but so he's probably coming in with less pressure here. It's a player that is driving the ball better than ever, but it's suddenly his irons have seemed to desert him. Not to simplify it too much, but that's what it looks like watching the last few weeks. Yeah.
I'm wondering if people would have guessed it from those clues. Jordan Spieth, Jordan Spieth that you can get at 90.0 on the exchange, which is probably a sentence I didn't think I'd say. He's, yeah, as you said, he had his troubles for getting on for probably 2 years, wasn't it? Particularly off the tee. He's now turned that around, and like you said, the results haven't come because he's lost the skills that he had before, which is, you know, pretty accurate iron play and an absolute killer with the putter. Strangely, his putting has got a little bit worse in the last 18 months. But he's still, I mean, the big sweetener for me was just how much of a wizard he is around the greens and the fit that gives you with this course. So you can just see the cameras being panned on him all day long, getting up and down from ludicrous positions. You know, the Texas wedge, which Martin Keimer used to his success 10 years ago, he used that on so many of the greens and off the runoff areas. Spieth's great at that. He's so creative. I think the more of a challenge he gets, the more focused he is. So I just think something about this course is going to kind of reignite that kind of killer instinct in Spieth, in that he's going to be put in weird situations to please the crowd, and he's going to be getting up and down and finding birdies from absolutely nowhere. And like I said, it's a bit of a flyer. His form's not particularly good. His driving's good. Like I said, his iron play's a little bit worse recently. There's a lot of links to Open Championship form at this course, which obviously Spieth, we've seen a lot of success on at the Open. Like I said, he's a wizard around the greens, and I think it's worth a punt. I think Spieth, it's likely that, to be honest, I would normally say at this price, put a top 10, top 20 in there. To be honest, I think Spieth is an all or nothing, so I would do it on the nose, because I think he's either going to contend early on and he's going to be there on Sunday, or he may burn out. But at 90.0, it's worth a few of your pound.
Yeah, don't double down your stake, basically. Jack, who do you like?
Big price. Probably won't be popular with listeners, this one. And I know it's not popular with you, the host there, Dan, but Sam Burns, 100 to 1 will be my big price selection. Look, he's a player with absolutely zero US Open pedigree, so I've taken that into account when making the selection. He's best placed, I think, 22nd or 27th, sorry, in 2022. But there's a few signs in his game that have led me to this selection. So I was looking at sort of some narrative of who could potentially take down Scottie on the back nine come Sunday. Well, there's plenty of players that have failed this year and over the past few years to do that. But one player that has taken him down and looked him in the eye is Sam Burns in the match play, going back to Texas about 12 months back now. He took him down in the semi-finals there. He's a player that's won on really demanding tracks. So I think he won the Valspar twice at Innsbruck, which is a driving test that is one of the hardest in the top 5 courses on the PGA Tour each and every year. And it's also one of the hardest in terms of approach play. Now, I appreciate the runoff areas and grain of grass isn't the same there, but he has performed on super challenging tracks in the past. And what I like is his game has been, it'd have been half this price going back 6 months, I would imagine. But his game this year started slowly, but he's got more accurate and longer off the tee as the years gone on. He's 11th in total driving on the PGA Tour this year, something that people probably wouldn't predict to the casual eye, but that's what the stats that bear out for us. And his approach play is picking up of recent times. So combining that, a resurgence in sort of his off the tee game, he is an elite level putter. So Martin Keimer, when winning this, putted out of this world. If this does become a putting contest, not saying that it will, but having a putter on side in my portfolio is what I wanted. Tommy probably doesn't have that in his locker, but Sam Burns does. And at 100 to 1, about a 5-time winner in the last 3 years. There's not many players in the whole field that that could say they've won 5 times in the past 3 years. I'm prepared to take a shout at 100 to 1 on Sam Burns.
Yeah, look, I slag the case all I want, but it is, again, similar to the Brooks and the few other ones picked up. It seems a big price. It's the Scottie tax that you can maybe take advantage of if he underperforms this week. as well, maybe getting an artificially bigger price than usual. Golfers to watch, so fun section at the end for those, you know, maybe looking at in play, little things like that, or just golfers keep an eye, maybe get them in your portfolio throughout the week or pre-tournament. Jack, we'll start with you. You've got 4 here, you've listed it.
Yeah, a few of them there. So just people that perform on grinding tests. So Alex Noren would be one that springs to mind. If you're looking for an out-and-out grinder, or you're playing any of your fantasy games this weekend outside of the Matchbook outright bets and top 20 bets, then he'd be a player that I'd be considering. Justin Rose, an absolute Donald Ross specialist. He's actually got 2 top 10 major finishes in his last 5 events. So there won't be many players that could say that. I can't find a way to him this week, but I wouldn't put people off him if you're a Justin Rose fan. At a price, probably actually not on the sheet that we've mentioned, but Patrick Cantlay is getting to a silly price now. He's getting into this where I found the Hovland bet. He's getting to a silly price now, and his price, his stats don't actually bear out to be as bad as maybe his performances are sort of alluding to. And then finally, a player that didn't make my portfolio, but was the hardest to leave out, was Sahith Theegala. He's got, I think he's in the top 20 in the world rankings now. And he's a player that is just improving week in, week out, plays fast and firm conditions well. He's got the mindset and attitude for this type of test. Quite looking forward to seeing how he goes. He's a player that I've got in my mind for majors in the next few years.
Okay, Will, hit us with yours.
Yeah, so I have one very big one, one slightly less big. So the large one is Harris English at a massive 320 on the exchange. If I was tipping it up, I would be doing probably top 10. So 15.0 you can get on him on the top 10. So he's racked up quite a strong US Open record over the last few years, and has started contending in majors even in spite of kind of average performances on the PGA Tour. So I just think you're getting a huge price around a winner who is doing well at majors recently and will have a decent course fit. And the other one was Cam Smith at 65.0. Again, he's very much out of the Spieth line of kind of a bit of a gut feel, skill set that matches the course quite well. He would have 100% made my selection, but for his final round of 80 on the Live Tour event just finished this week. So he completely blew up on the final day, allegedly just lost control of the driver and got out of contention and then threw in an 80. It's probably drifted the price a little bit, but it's probably enough to put me off putting my money on him. But it wouldn't shock me if he's up there. Like I said, another one that you put him 6 to 10 feet for par, he could start rolling them in. Suddenly he's up there on the leaderboard on Sunday at 65.0.
Okay, we have a lot of golfers thrown at you. Insights.matchbook.com. There'll be a full recap from Tuesday evening. There's one golfer I wanted to mention, Aaron Rai, and because of Jack's positives comments pre-recording here, I said I'd put him in. He's my guy here. Tipped him up for the Canadian Open, dropped the ball big time most of the day. You know, when you're tracking a golfer and I'm like, he's just piss shots away left, right and center, but he somehow managed to tie 14th. Negative strokes putting last 3 tournaments, including the PGA, where he's tied for 39. So I'm hoping if he can get the putter a little bit hot this week, that he could contend. I just think a tough golf course will suit. And yeah, so as I said, he's had 5 solid finishes in recently. Tied 23rd, tied 4th, and then top 40s in the last 2, as well as tied 14. So yeah, 320 win, and maybe if you want one, 6.6 for a top 20 currently on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. My thanks to Jack and Will. We will be back for the Open. So yeah, other than that, best of luck this week, and we'll chat to you then. Bye bye.